mean, we were always very interested, if you remember, and still are, in the relationship between the workspace and premises economics. And you know, I always try to differentiate between premises economics and real economics, because you know, we used to look at the cost of the premises, which probably even now is not much more than 3 or 4% of the total revenue expenditure. I used to say to people, well, you know, if you're starting to look at productivity, you know, you might save 20% on your premises costs, and that might make maybe 1% saving in your total revenue. But if you get it wrong and the productivity is impacted, then in fact you probably will lose by a factor of 20. And you know, this I think is still probably not properly understood by a lot of people who just try to save space without understanding the implications of what they're doing. I mean, I know you've approached it much more intelligently than that. But
although, but even so, you still have to, well, not dumb it down, that's not quite the right way of putting it, but make it simple for people to understand. And I've found actually a very simple phrase or concept that gets across this message is, think in terms of every 5 minutes that you stop someone working. And I said that can be as simple as a jammed photocopier or a photocopier out of action, or even a vending machine that you just walked across the floor to get to and it's not there, not working, and by the time you've come back or gone to the next one where there's a queue and so on. Think of all those 5 minutes, because 5 minutes of someone's time is 1% of their day gone.
that's right.
And 1% of their productivity gone that you'll never get back. You know, they might work 5 minutes longer at the end of the day, but they'll quietly resent that, or it will build up over time as part of not, you know, being engaged with the organisation. So using that 5 minutes idea brings it down to something tangible that people can relate to. And certainly when I did some work on this a few years ago, you can very, very quickly, through just average to poor facilities management, get up to 10%. Very, very quickly, that you're going to impact day in, day out. And as you say, if you then take the cost of the staff at what, you know, 5 or 7 times the all-in cost of the property, so including all the rents and rates, still 5 to 7 times, as you say, you can be very quickly sort of penny wise, so to speak, on the real estate facility costs, and pound foolish when it comes to the staff. That's
right. I mean, one of the things that we always tell people, even now, is that when we're benchmarking their facilities costs and performance, I always say to them, well, look, you know, you've got to pay the right price. You know, they want to find out that they're paying the right price in terms of, are they paying the right price in the marketplace. But then I say, well, really the critical thing is not whether you spend more or less in the effect that has on the revenue, it's whether you get the right facilities. And you know, if you have a maintenance regime which saves you money, and then you find that your plant is breaking down all the time, you know, you are not saving any money at all. And so people still, I'm afraid, even now, a lot of people still don't understand these simple principles that we've discussed. You know, that facilities is about helping people to be more efficient. And facility management is not about cutting costs, it's about helping people to become more efficient.
You spend the money for an output, you don't spend the money to spend less of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you've got to think about the impact of the output of what you're providing, and that's why you exist.
That's right.
Yeah, you should always look for ways of doing the right thing for less money, less resource, but you've got to understand what that right thing is to start with.
And people don't. I mean, many years ago, I think you might have been involved in this, I'm not sure, we looked at an organisation, two large financial services organisations, and we were looking, I think, at their cleaning costs or something like that, and we found that one of them was spending £8 a square metre per annum, and the other was, and you know who this is, was spending £28 a square metre per annum. And they were both wrong, but neither of them understood it. So one of them was spending too little and getting their staff very upset. And the other one was just throwing money away and not really getting any appreciation for it. But neither of them could actually say or explain why they had the level of performance that they had. And it's just been inherited, you know. And that's the problem. And I don't think, I think your research shows that that hasn't changed, really.
No, there is no cause and effect in our industry that I could find.
No,
so I'm not saying there isn't necessarily out there, but it's not that obvious if it does exist. You know, I looked at the linkage between what you spend on the facility, the quality you get for the money and the satisfaction of the occupiers with what they're using.
Right.
And I couldn't find any meaningful correlations between any of it anywhere, either at a holistic level or at the detailed functional, cleaning, maintenance, security level. Nothing. So it's a bit worrying, really.
Yeah, we did find occasionally you'd find a correlation between user satisfaction surveys and a change in performance. I remember we did some work for one of the government departments, and we traced over 3 or 4 years the levels of satisfaction. And where they had refurbished a building which had been the least successful, there was immediately a big jump, and everybody was pleased with it. But how that impacted upon performance, I don't think anybody ever found out, or could find out actually.
And the other thing, because I found that one as well, but when I did my research, I had 1,800, a sample of 1,800. So the effect of within that of those who had actually were in the middle of what was a transition point which would improve their satisfaction was sort of broadly balanced out by those people who were feeling hard done by, and their satisfaction was going down. So that sort of, so it was almost looking at it as steady state. The other thing was clear was that the lasting effect of a change like that, so investing in a facility, wasn't that long actually.
No, that's right.
So people, they move into the new facility, they're delighted, satisfaction goes up, but over the course of that year they get used to it and it levels off again. And what was also interesting, I haven't got this well documented, but anecdotally it happened, was that where we had in the business I was working with at that time a team in 3 big facilities, we actually in 3 cities, 2 of the buildings actually, or the teams, were moved into new ones, and the 3rd one stayed in the same place. Now, previous to the move, the team in the one that stayed was very, very happy with what they had, but because they saw their colleagues moving into brand spanking new buildings with all the bells and whistles, all of a sudden they became very dissatisfied with their building, which previous to that was fine. So nothing had changed apart from the context in which they were viewing it, and that completely changed their perception and the measurements and everything else. So again, sometimes it comes back to this thing that I think is that where the industry, what you've shown through your career and the impact on the industry is that where you can put some science behind what's going on, it gives you a much greater power to actually do things, you take them more seriously and everything else. But there's still huge areas where we're not scientific, we don't understand all the research or don't use all the research that's out there. I just started looking through all the marketing literature on satisfaction, and it's a huge, great topic with lots of knowledge out there which we don't even start thinking about. How to manage expectations, the sort of the legacy effect of your previous satisfaction on the incident that you currently got in front of you, or your current satisfaction. All this stuff's out there, we ignore it. We're not aware of it, and I think that's maybe where the industry needs to take a lesson from what you've done and start getting more scientific.
Well, we've tried to say, over and over and over and over again that, you've got to try to understand the effect of your facilities upon performance, and you say it and people nod, but no one takes it any further, do they, really?
No.
That's the problem.